Hello friends and welcome back. In this video we'll talk about subordinate clauses. So let us try to understand what is a subordinate clause first. Subordinate clause is a group of words with a finite or a non-finite verb and other optional clause elements and which functions either as subject, verb, object, complement or an adverbial in the sentence. The subordinate clause functions as a noun, adjective, and adverb functions in the sentence. It plays the function of a subject, object, complement, or an adverbial. Subordinate clauses are not independent sentences like main clauses. They depend on main clauses to get their meaning and therefore they are called subordinate. They are also called dependent clauses because they are not independent and depend on main clauses to get their meaning. Thus, main clauses are called principal clauses, while these are called subordinate clauses, and these are also called dependent clauses. Remember, although subordinate clauses look like the sentences, they are not at all the sentences. They are only the parts of the sentence. They play the function either of the subject, verb, object, complement, or an adverbial in the sentence. This is what we need to remember in relation to subordinate clauses. Let us have an example. For example, there is a sentence, he told a good story. Now, in this sentence, you will find that he is a subject, told is a verb, and a good story is a noun phrase. Now, let us look at another sentence written otherwise. He told that it was a good story. The sentence he told that it was a good story is a sentence and it has a subordinate clause in it. Because he is the subject, told is a verb, and that it was a good story functions as the object in this sentence. Have a look at another sentence. It is a mystery. If you look at the sentence, you will find that it has a structure and its structure is subject, verb and object. Now, look at this sentence written otherwise. Whether he knows the story is a mystery. Now, in the sentence, whether he knows the story is the mystery, you will find that whether he knows the story functions as the subject in this sentence, while is the verb and a mystery is an object. Have a look at the sentence, he told that it was a good story. In this sentence, that it was a good story is a subordinate clause, but it is the object of this sentence. You can replace it by any noun or a pronoun. And if that subordinate clause is replaceable by a pronoun or a noun, that becomes a noun clause. If a subordinate clause is replaceable by an adjective, that becomes an adjective clause. And if it is replaceable by an adverb, that becomes an adverb clause. We'll talk about these types of clauses later on. First of all, just try to understand what the subordinate clause is. Have a look at the second sentence that we have discussed. The sentence is, whether he knows the story is a mystery. In the sentence, whether he knows the story is the verb, and whether he knows the story is the subject. And this subject is the subordinate clause. Of course, it is a noun clause and it functions as subject in the sentence, but just try to understand that it is a subordinate clause functioning as the subject in this sentence. Let us move on to see a few more examples. If I tell you a few examples like she works hard, in this sentence you will find that the structure is subject, verb and adverbial, and hard is an adverb which is playing the function of an adverbial. Now, let us replace this hard by an adverb clause. She works because she has no money. Now, in this sentence, she works because she has no money. You will find that because she has no money is an adverbial. She works because she has no money. So, because she has no money modifies the verb works as to why she works, because she has no money. Now, if you're saying this becomes an adverb clause. You can see, look at it as a sentence, but it is not a sentence. It gets its meaning only when it is attached to works. Because she has no money has no meaning independently. It gets its meaning when it is connected with the rest of the part of the sentence. And that we have to understand. So in this sentence, hard, the adverb hard is replaced by because she has no money, and because she has no money can be replaced by adverb hard or any other adverb. And such clauses are called adverb clauses. Now look at another sentence. She knows the boy who works here. Okay, she knows the boy who works here. If you're talking about this sentence, that you will find who works here looks like a sentence, but it is not a sentence at all. It is just the part of a noun phrase, the boy who works here. It post modifies the noun boy, and as it is a relative clause, it modifies the noun boy. It is not a sentence in itself. So these are some of the examples which can help you to understand the subordinate clauses. Subordinate clauses are not the sentences, they are just the parts of the sentence. They play some function in the sentence. That is what we need to understand if we need to understand the subordinate clauses in detail. Based on their function in the sentence, that means based on whether they function like a noun, whether they function like an adjective, or whether they function like an adverb. Based on this notion, the subordinate clauses can be classified into three main categories. These three main categories are noun clauses, adjective clauses, and adverb clauses. Noun clauses are the clauses which function exactly at the place where a noun functions. These are also called nominal clauses. Adjective clauses are the clauses which functions at the place of an adjective. They are also called relative clauses. And adverb clauses are the clauses that function exactly as an adverb functions. This is what we have to remember. I mean, if you look at the sentence and you see that this is a group of words that can be replaced by an adverb, that becomes an adverb clause. Similarly, if you look at it and you find that it can be replaced by a noun, then it becomes a noun clause, and if you can replace it by an adjective, it becomes an adjective clause. Don't need to replace also, just try to understand this is an adjectival part, that becomes adjective clause. Recognize this as an adverbial part, call it an adverb clause, or see this as a nominal part and call it a noun clause. So these are the three basic categories of clauses: nouns, adjectives, and adverb. Clauses functioning as nouns, clauses functioning as adjectives, and clauses functioning as adverbials. These are called noun clauses, adjective clauses, and adverb clauses. Of course, we are going to talk about them in detail in next 2, 3, 4 videos, so that we can understand clauses thoroughly. Here we just need to understand the types of clauses in general. One more thing you need to understand, that subordinate clauses are also classified as finite clauses and non-finite clauses. See, each of the finite clause can either be a noun clause, adjective clause, or an adverb clause, and each of the non-finite clause can also be a noun clause, adjective clause, or an adverbial clause. Remember, the classification that finite and non-finite depends on the form of verb used in the clause. If there is a finite verb used in that clause, that becomes a finite clause, and if non-finite verb is used in that clause, that becomes a non-finite clause. That's very simple. I mean, if it is a finite verb in it, that becomes a finite clause. If there is a non-finite verb in it, that becomes a non-finite clause. We'll also talk about finite and non-finite clauses at length and in detail in the next video. I think you have understood the basic concept of subordinate clauses. This video is meant to let you know the basic concept and let you understand the basic concept of the subordinate clauses. I hope you have understood it, and we'll talk about noun clauses separately in the next video. Thank you very much for watching.